Welcome to a one-of-a-kind podcast series brought to you by Maxim Institute, Maximise Election 23. We are here every week to dive into the latest news, discussing the plain and the fancy articles while bringing you insightful analysis of the various events across our country. We also present the Generally Good Egg Award and share our expectations for the following week. Today, Communications Manager Jason Heale is joined by researchers Natasha Baulis and Maryanne Spurdle. Let's dive right into Maximise Election 23. Wow, Natasha and Maryanne, welcome to the podcast this week. Good to have you.
Yes, good to be here.
We're going to get right into it with our plain topic, which everyone seems to be talking about, GST off the old fruit and veg.
Yes.
Maryanne, what do you make of this?
Well, none of us were very surprised.
There was this big leak a couple
of
weeks ago.
I know. It was like...
Is that the leak of the vegetable variety?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I feel like I need to come up with a fruit pun, but I'm not going to. We did have the surprise element was it's going to be frozen veg as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Love
Transformational.
Yeah. So obviously, what was it, $20 a month per household?
Yeah.
So you can pick up your bunch of bananas per person at the end of the week.
Yes, an extra bunch.
Don't know anybody who's excited about that.
Yeah. I don't know that you can get bananas for that much either. I was racking my brain for, by the time you split it up across a household.
Yeah.
What item of fruit can you buy for $1?
That's right. Yeah, because there's 4 people in our
week.
household, 4 people in your household. That's
Yeah,
like
that's
$4
right.
a week,
Woo!
$1 per person.
Big
I don't know.
savings.
Yeah, and it doesn't cover like tinned fruit and vegetables, so you can't
No.
get a tin of peaches or whatever for $1, on special. That's, yeah. Natasha?
Well, I think particularly there was a Deloitte study out recently. The efficiency of the New Zealand government in administering GST already is worlds behind. So the ATO, it costs for $100 of GST, it costs them 71 cents to process. In New Zealand, it costs $1.86 for every $100 that comes in. So I'm just wondering, by the time you add the extraordinary administrative burden of dealing with this new law.
So our simplest GST in the world system is still more expensive than the more complicated system elsewhere.
Yeah, so if you
make it even more complicated, basically, nobody's saving anything.
Yeah. So I heard it called Diabolically Silly by Brad Olson.
Which is a nice turn of phrase.
It is a nice turn of phrase. I don't know, do you think they get points for trying? I love it.
Trying what?
I love it. Trying what?
Trying governance. Yes. Get an E for effort. Thank you.
Oh, yes, great. An E for effort. All right. Well, why don't we move on to the fancy then? We came across this article by The Guardian saying that young people tend to voting more conservative these days, going against the grain, going against international trends, apparently. Natasha, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's interesting because in 2016, there was a big marketing conglomerate. They did a bunch of research and they were saying that Generation Z, which for those of you who don't know, anyone born in the late 1990s or early 2000s, Generation Z, the most conservative generation since the Second World War.
Yeah.
People scoffed.
Yeah.
Well, now these are the people who are apparently going to vote more conservatively this election. So I'd say, someone called it back in 2016 and now we're just seeing it play
They got
out.
the big I told you so button that they're going to push, hopefully.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But it says that, like the article said, Maryanne, that it's bucking international trends. Do you think that's a thing? Or I thought a lot of countries were moving right these days.
Yeah, it's kind of bucking the trend here because the younger generation is swinging away from what we've currently got.
Yeah.
The article pointed out that young people, it said, veer unusually progressive. But to veer away from labor, is labor progressive? When you're taking GST on fruits and vegetables and putting, the more extreme things on the policy bonfire and sticking to bread and butter issues when that's not actually your forte.
Yeah.
Is that progressive? So you've got that in the mix as well. And then I do wonder, and I'm not Gen Z or close to it, so I'm not sure, but I do wonder if they're better than older generations at seeing through glossy marketing. Maybe they are a little
bit
less...
more cynical?
way more cynical, I think, because they've grown up with the kind of media that's being used to, to shape the conversation. And
they also they had their childhood during the financial crisis, right? So I think it's not surprising if they're more fiscally conservative, because the stress of that during their childhood of whatever their parents were going through around that time, and now we're seeing, is there another financial crisis looming? They've already seen something like this before. Is it any surprise that they want to move towards something a little bit safer, a little bit less
similar to the generation
risky
in World War II that went through the Great Depression as children, right? Yeah.
And for those who voted for the current government, because this poll goes up to 34-year-olds, they've had 6 years to see progress.
Quote unquote progress, right?
I don't think that anybody's going, yes, we want to keep trying that. So that could be part of it as well.
Yeah. I also wonder if it's just young people like to vote the opposite of what older people do, and like now to be conservative is to be rebellious.
It's a bit progressive, really, isn't it?
It's very progressive.
Yeah, that's right. It also said that young women seem to be turning away from the progressive left.
I don't know. I wonder whether also, Jacinda's not at the helm anymore.
Yeah.
It's nothing against Chris personally, but he's not a dynamic woman in her, 40s.
He's not relatable.
Yeah, right. He's not particularly relatable for the
likes
average
sausage
young woman.
rolls. What do you mean? He's totally relatable.
Not relatable. They're all 20-year-old woman.
That's great. Oh, I love it. Well, why don't we move on then to talk about the winners and losers of the week? Who have we got nominated? Maryanne, who are your nominations?
For winner, I think it would have to be Winston Peters, who's
Winnie
now
the winner.
Yeah,
the winner.
officially in all the polls.
Yeah.
Cracked the 5%, which means those people who are backing him now think, well, or the ones who are on the fringes.
On the fence, yeah.
Not to mention there's all those lovely friendly posters of him out now at the moment.
I know, ACT is advertising on his behalf
I
now.
know,
It's all going in his favour.
He couldn't look friendlier
I know.
than he does in those posters. Just as an outsider coming in, I'm not voting in the upcoming election, I'm not eligible to, but just looking at those beautiful black and white posters, he
Smiling,
looks winsome.
laughing.
He does.
Winston,
if I didn't...
That's great. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, he has come over the 5% threshold. It was a bit of an own goal from ACT. Who's your loser for the week then? If Winston, we all agree, Winston's a winner, right?
Winston's a winner.
Yeah. So Maryanne, who's your loser for the week?
I think, having talked about GST, Grant must be feeling a little bit sheepish, because I mean he's the one having to front this.
Yeah.
And act as if he didn't once dismiss the idea and go, no, we've looked at these, and these 3 reasons are why it now is going to be a fabulous idea.
Potentially could have done a little bit more research on the 3 reasons before he cited them.
Yeah.
Follow-up questions are a real pain that way.
Don't you just
completely
love...
unable to say where the data came from for it, but no, it's a great idea. So, I'm feeling a bit bad for him.
Yeah. I think ACT. Nobody likes the guy that picks on the other guy. It's just, it's pointless. I don't know why. And particularly, it's so personal. They're not even talking about a party. They're talking about a man. I just think it was a useless marketing.
To do it in such a ambiguous way.
Well, I know exactly what they're trying to do, but where they misstepped is, because I can think of people who are thinking, yep, I'm going to go New Zealand first, even though they're not happy with what Winston Peters did in 2017. ACT's assuming people have forgotten. They haven't forgotten. They just are looking around and going, well, he's the one person who's going to actually, for those who are disenfranchised, have a chance at having a voice here.
Yeah.
And so I think his numbers would be even bigger if 2017 hadn't happened.
Yeah.
It did. People remember,
and
so ACT's trying to jog their memories. They've had them jogged.
They
know. Yeah. They're going to vote for him anyway.
I wonder if they remember that he went down to the protests and he visited the people, and he got trespassed by Trevor Mallard and threatened to take him to court and all that thing. So I think
he won back a little bit of legitimacy there with those people.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of people who try to sell something as transformational, though, what about the National Party and their ban of cell phones? That
was a bit of a
second place loser.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a horrible idea, but should the government be doing that? Yeah. Or wouldn't it be a fabulous thing to let schools make up their own decision? Because actually we need more autonomy in schools.
Yeah. More localism,
what I
less
think.
nationalism.
Well, then you can try a few different approaches and see, instead of just a blanket policy that may work for some people, may not work for others.
And some schools are already doing it.
Yeah.
And they're figuring out how it works best for them.
Yeah.
Just let them at it.
Yeah. No, good. Excellent. Well, I can't call a loser, but I don't have to, so that's okay.
Oh, are you sure you don't?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. You're running the show.
Yeah, we're going to move on to the generally good egg. Now, Natasha, you've got an interesting nomination for the generally good egg.
Well, it's always wonderful when your new country experiences expand your vocabulary. When I was in Tanzania, it was chuggala buggala. I will always be grateful for that word. Look it up if you don't know what it means. Grant Robertson, boondoggle. Thank you. Thank you. That's a goodie. I'm going to be saving that one away for my New Zealand lexicon. That's fantastic.
Nice.
That is one to put in the lexicon. Boondoggle. My goodness. That's great. Okay. So he's a loser and a generally good egg.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Look, I just think, the schools are struggling at the moment. So when our politicians can start to expose us to new and wonderful...
It's like a literacy program all in itself.
Your vocabulary.
Yeah, that's right. Maryanne, what about you?
I'm going to go with Alfred Naro.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
New political party?
His new political party.
Yeah.
Well, rebranded old one.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And
strange
even those
timing as well,
who
right?
had a running start at this haven't succeeded in unifying the many splintered votes out there. But he is just a generally good egg.
Yeah.
I don't understand why now, and I don't think he has a hope of cracking the 5%, and he knows that. So
is he hoping for an electoral seat, or?
Well, I think he actually genuinely wants to be part of the conversation and have a voice out there. And so he's able to. And the other reason I think he's a good egg about this is because what he can't get away from is, even when he's asked directly, is this a Christian party? And he says no. And the way he says no is, yes, I'm a Christian.
Yes.
But it's not a Christian party in the same way that any business, any of the thousands of businesses out there run by someone who happens to be a Christian.
Yeah.
It's not a Christian
It's like
business.
saying U2 is a Christian band, right? Because Bono is a Christian.
And it's not.
Yeah.
So he's explicitly said that. I heard him interviewed on Thursday evening. Friday, the headlines are he's launching a Christian party. And then I hear the commentators who are referencing that interview saying, that he's saying it's not. And they're going, but it is, isn't it?
So it's not, but it really is.
He's not able to escape. He's being pigeonholed. He's intentionally being misrepresented. And in the interviews with him, he can't get away from that question about his faith.
Yeah.
They just insist on making that the only thing they'll talk about, even though you've got a new political party on the scene. What policies? What actual things that will involve?
Yeah.
No, he's having trouble getting asked the right questions about that, but he's doing it anyway, so he's my good egg.
That is high on the good eggometer, I think, for going through that. I am going to take one that someone very wise mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Someone very wise. If you can't guess who it is, you're obviously not listening very closely.
You're welcome, Jason.
But I was stunned to wake up one morning and see the corner of intersection of Penrose Road and Mount Wellington Highway festooned, absolutely covered with placards for the election. And so the people who go around putting those up, and Natasha, you caught some of them.
I love the furtive placard raiser.
Yeah.
It's just, just be proud of it.
Yeah, because generally they do it without, they're like, oh, no one should see us because, but, and
it's
normally
like
it's...
the backstage crew when they're changing sets and they just think, we're not the main stars, don't look at us. But
we're all dressed in black and we run out with the lights down.
Hammers.
That's great. So I'm going to say those guys are doing a great job because there's so many placards. In the democratic process.
Beautiful.
It's good. And so to wrap it up, what do we want to see for the week ahead? Maryanne, what are you hoping to see in our country as we get closer to the election?
I feel like this should be a low bar, but it probably isn't. I just like a substantive policy from anyone.
Yeah, that's great.
Just something. It doesn't have to be transformational, but just
that does seem to be the buzzword at the moment.
Not something where you go, that's gonna, like
That's
make
a couple
5
of
cents
phrases
a day.
put together. Yeah.
Yeah, just something that's actually gonna move the dial on something.
Yeah.
That's all.
Not giving you $1 a week or.
We can't completely be out of good ideas.
Yeah. Or taking cell phones away.
Yeah.
Natasha, what about you? What would you like to see? We've
Well,
got
so
any substantive
policy. Actually, mine's a bit more precise.
Yes.
We're 2 weeks into the new legislations on vaping. So the government passed anti-vaping legislation in June,
which everyone's probably forgotten about. Yeah.
Enforced in
Including the
August.
government.
2 weeks in. Ministry of Health, would you mind please taking the vaping advertising down off of your website?
No. What? They're advertising vaping.
Vaping as the healthy and cheap smoking alternative. And I just think you can't have it both ways.
On one hand, you're going to ban vaping, and on the other hand, you're going to say it's healthy and safe. Don't smoke,
much
vape.
better than smoking.
Yeah.
And most recent research shows that actually people are just as likely to go from vaping to smoking as from smoking to vaping.
Yeah.
The vape to quit methodology, it's not working.
Yeah.
Please catch up to your own legislation. Take it down off
Take
your
it
website.
down. I love it. Well, I am going to say that I got my wish last week because last week I said
The great
I would like to
prophet,
see.
Jason.
I said I would like to see more Winston Peters.
And then you looked out your window and there
I
he is
saw
on
a
every billboard.
A lot more Winston Peters.
And so we released a research paper last week on education post-COVID, and education's been in the news a little bit, mainly for falling rates of literacy and people dropping out of uni and things like that. But I'd like to see some substantive education policies, similar to you, Maryanne, something that's...
So not last week's policy.
Not last week of like banning cell phones. No, something more like this might be how we lift literacy across the board, or we might have some evidence-based policy that actually, helps...
Because there is evidence out there for
there
stuff.
Is. Yeah, exactly.
Apply some of it.
So this week, that's what I'd like to see. Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you for joining me this week on the Maximise the Election 23. Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.